Hey guys, welcome in this new video. So it's Ludo. I know you're wondering who's that guy. So this is James. Let me introduce. He's an athlete. May have done some competition lately. No, jokes apart, we're here to train legs. James is training and trying to bring you some technical stuff around this style of training. So to understand the whys and how does James trains, and give you some good content you can do at home and try to think about it, to bring you some logic behind what the pro athlete is doing and why he's doing this kind of training. So we know there are different methods around, different styles of training. Obviously James is known for his own style of training, and let's see how and why it works.
Yeah, guys, so we're at King's Gym today. You will recognise it maybe from my YouTube if you have been on there. Always down here, great gym. Yeah, so we're going to train legs today. It's going to be a little bit different because I've changed my training a little bit. But as we train, I'll explain why the reasons are. First and foremost for training, guys, the one thing that you have to take into consideration is effort. Effort is the main component, okay? So today you'll notice there's a lot of effort. Everything else, like we just said, you can train in many ways. What I do and what works for me is certainly worth a try. And if you take away a lot from this session and you try it and you like it, stick with it for sure. If you ever get stuck with any of the any questions as to why I'm doing what I'm doing, I'll try and go through as many of them as I can today. Obviously, this is going to hit YouTube. Do leave your comments below because we'll try and get back to you and help you guys get educated on the reasons why we do what we do. So it's going to be cool. I'm going to start with some RDLs. It's only 3 exercises on legs for me today because I split my legs into 2 over the week. So 3 exercises, but a lot of hard work. So I'm going to start with RDLs today, guys. I've only got 2 working sets to do.
Yep.
My training in the minute is actually progressive in a totally different way. So some exercises on my training in the minute, there was a week 1, week 2, week 3, week 4. As the weeks go past, certain exercises you add another set. So my volume of my training is the lowest on week 1. Okay. Week 2, you'll see certain exercises get an introduction of a second set. Yeah. So last week when I did this, there was 2 sets of RDL, 1 set of leg press. Today there's an additional set of leg press put in. Next week, there will be 3 sets of leg press, and you progress like that. Rather than going in with your total volume from the start, you build up to that volume. And this allows you to kind of climatize to that, but also get very strong, and that increased frequency and that increased volume will allow you to recover as well, because you're not doing too much in one workout. Obviously, the peak of the system, you're gonna have the most sets you've ever done, but you don't get there straight away, you build up so you can be tolerant, you can tolerate it basically.
You got to do and take the most out of the least. So at the beginning of the mesocycle, obviously you are more fresh.
Yes.
But obviously the muscle can react to a lower volume.
Yes, exactly.
The more you build up, the more you need volume to stimulate the muscle.
Absolutely, absolutely. So the stimulation that's required to do the same again is going to be more. So like I say, beginning of the mesocycle, you're at your lowest volume and you're going to start building up as the weeks go by. I'm pretty new to this style of training. Okay. I've obviously done a lot of push-pull legs in a progressive overload fashion, but when you've been training as long as me and as yourself, it is nice to try other things. I do believe many ways work, so I'm not going to count out any way of training and say it doesn't work unless I've done it and it didn't work. I've had friends do this and make progression like crazy. So for me, it's fun. It stimulates my brain, stimulates my body, and it lets me learn something new in my training as well. So not conventional RDL, not conventional deadlift today, RDL. The difference between that is you're getting a lot more hip hinge, less leg drive. If I was doing a conventional deadlift, my focus would be to push my feet through the floor. I'd be driving downwards heavily and pushing through. I'm voting for a much larger hip hinge movement here, so I'm trying to keep my hips back, legs pretty much straight with a slight kink, tension in the hamstrings, and I'm actually just trying to elevate from there. So that way you incorporate a lot more leg, and obviously because it's a leg day, that's the goal.
When it comes to warm up, what you gotta lose and see really closely how James approached to the working set, because I've seen lots of people doing plenty of reps before warming up, before going to the working set, and the purpose of the warm up is to have a priming effect for the working set. So you have to push as much as you possibly can in the working set. So basically, the first one, you got to step by step increase the load and doing the less minimum number of reps you need to feel the connection into the exercise. The minimum amount of reps. So obviously with advanced athletes such as James, the amount of reps is what, 3, 4?
It's like I'll do 2 to 3 reps per warm-up, because at the end of the day, like you say, you don't want to overexert on the way up. You know, you get a lot of people that have their opinion and they like to do it the other way around. I'm not going to say that's a bad thing, but I feel for us, when we're trying to reach a certain level of output, it's more sensible to reserve yourself a little bit to preserve some of that energy for those heavy sets. Because obviously if we warm up on 10 reps plus for a warm-up set, our total workload by the end is going to be a lot less. And, you know, weight does matter to a certain degree, so we don't want to compromise how much weight we can move just because we were a little bit overzealous with the amount of energy we output on the way up. So like 2 repetitions, that's enough for you to understand the movement pattern and that additional load. Again, any more would just be me working my lungs a little bit too hard. It is off season after all. Again, not like killing yourself yet, allowing yourself for some build up.
Yeah.
So I'm not really going into failure zone yet.
Okay.
I'm letting the accumulation do the work.
Okay.
Which actually feels quite nice, and my body feels a bit fresher for it. So
Yeah.
it's very different, and a lot of people, you know, there's going to be a lot of bodybuilders out there that every set should be to failure. Not really, not if you can't recover.
Yeah, that's no purpose. So I always say like the recovery is the real limiting factor in bodybuilding.
Yeah.
Recovery is you want to stimulate some muscle, go to the leg extension and stay all day on the leg extension. You're going to stimulate quad as much as you want.
Yeah.
The limiting factor is recovery always.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
you have got to consider recovery. You want to stimulate as much as possible until recovery lets you.
Yeah, exactly. So take that into account. You have to understand that you can only be as good as your recovery allows.
Absolutely.
You know, you can train the hardest in the world, you can be the best,
100%.
hardest trainer, but if your recovery doesn't allow for you to grow and recover, then you're not really going to get it.
Think like recovery is something you do outside the gym. Recovery starts now how you set up your program.
Yeah.
That's
Don't
what
overdo it in here, honestly.
Yeah, exactly.
Like I've overdone it many times. I've done like workouts of like 40 sets. It's not needed. So again, trying to create as much tension on those hamstrings as possible. And the only way you're going to get that is by keeping a relatively straight line in your back and in your legs. I say you can bend your knees slightly, just if you find there's a discomfort. You don't want this like hyperextension at the knee, so you obviously don't want it to be like that, like dead straight. There's a little bend. But as long as you feel that tension, you're pretty good. Hamstring.
Come on, James. Easy. Come on. Again. Yeah. Easy. Come on. Pull.
I'll take that.
See how the connection with the muscle was there to the end. So it was slows a lot till the end because the mind was there into the muscle. So people usually, when you get there, they start to engage the lower back doing this stuff.
It's very easy to want to switch to a conventional. So once your hamstrings start to get really tired, obviously you naturally want to come out of this position and then switch to this.
Exactly.
And press. So you've got to try not to do that. It's hard. That's why I'm out of breath.
So obviously James has a huge capability in connecting to the muscle you want to train. So he goes straight to an RDL an SLDL, whatever. But if you can't, because a lot of people in this kind of compound movement, they can't connect to arms or glutes. So if you can't, a solution could be to do a pre-fatigue exercise, like line arm curl.
Do that first to give yourself some connection.
Just some blood, just some connection, or to your glutes. Or if you want to connect more on the glutes, or if you struggle, because the main component of the hip hinge is the glutes. And there is a kind of antagonism between glutes and lower back. So if you want to engage the glutes because you feel a lot of lower back, what you can do is to create an intention in external rotation of the femorus. So if I do this, and you see, I'm not moving, but I'm creating an intention. If I create this intention, I'm engaging the glutes more. So when I stay there, I try to create this intention. I will feel the glutes more. That's something you can do.
Yeah, when you're trying to pull it in that style, like you said, it's definitely, even though your feet might look like that, you should be subconsciously, there should be an outwards rotation to incorporate more glute and lower body to take some of the strain off the back. Listen, obviously, you're going to hit lower back doing that, but to what degree? And that comes down to how you set the exercise up and how you execute it. So that's a very good point. You hit biceps like 4 times a week. But not a lot, but you do it a little 4 times a week. Because these weak body parts is shoulders and biceps. And mine are similar, so I'm like, oh fuck it, I'll just do the same. Like, I could well do it more bicep and well do it more shoulder. So I'm like, I'll just do your exact routine for a few months while I'm in the off season and just see how it pans out. Because again, looking at him physically, because genetically we're quite similar, his body parts that need a bit of work are similar to mine. So it made sense to co-align our workouts. And I'll just see what happens. If it works, and I'll let you guys know. If it doesn't work as I suspected, or expected, not suspected, expected, then obviously I'll also let you guys know. It's about trial and error and education at the end of the day. And I've been setting a few ways of my training for such a long time, and it has worked. It's obviously got me to a good place. But I am always open to discussion for other styles of training as well, because ultimately what makes you a good bodybuilder is that your endurance. How long are you actually interested in bodybuilding? Because you can lose interest quite fast. So you have to understand that a lot of what will keep you in bodybuilding is small things like subtle changes to your training that keep you mentally stimulated. Because there's not much variety in what we do, because it's a lifestyle. So if there's anything that's small that allows you to stay interested and commit, sometimes it's a good thing. Obviously, if you're deviating every week and changing your plan, you're never going to get any consistency in place. So it's finding that happy marriage between the two. I'll stick to a plan for, probably a good 12 weeks at least to see what it's doing, rather than be like, oh, 1 week is good, 1 week is bad. Because the only reason I still bodybuild really, if I'm honest with you guys, is because I found ways to stay interested.
Yeah, that's the point. The most difficult thing on athletes is to get the athlete outside his comfort zone, but inside their enjoyability zone. There is a tiny spot, because usually the comfort zone is like that. There is a tiny spot outside the comfort zone that is still enjoyable for the athlete.
Yes.
You gotta find that zone.
Yeah, just above the line where you're gonna cause change because you're in an uncomfortable place, but not so uncomfortable that you don't like doing it anymore. So it's it's interesting. These things come to you with time, and the longer you bodybuild for, the longer you realise these things. But it's I always say you can beat better bodybuilders because of your endurance. There's a lot of bodybuilders out there that had incredible genetics, but they didn't have the mental endurance, so they gave up on bodybuilding sooner than you. If you stick to it and you stay around long enough, you become the victor. And I always say that.
The most hypertrophic things ever is longevity.
To staying committed and again treating bodybuilding like it's a marathon, not a sprint. Yes, there is small sprints and intervals involved, but ultimately, for anything to truly change, it takes a long time. So if you can have that patience and stick to it, you'll do well.
To push into the body parts that you want to push in, first you pull out work. Because usually people are like, okay, I'm weak on biceps, I do more biceps. Do more. No, just pull something else and then do more. Because you have certain availability, recover capabilities, systemic recovery capabilities.
And I think a lot of time with something like arms, people punish them so hard in the gym. Bear in mind it's quite a small muscle group. The amount of breakdown occurring and lack of recovery because of that overtraining.
Absolutely.
I think you can probably get away with one set of arms a few times a week if you do it correctly. Find that exercise that does work for you, find the tempo, find the weight, find the execution that works for you, and you'll probably get more out of it.
Absolutely.
Overdoing it is never a good thing. No. You can't bully muscle on, put it that way.
All day. Come on. Come on.
Again, there's a little bit of reserve on these because we're doing this progressive training system. So I probably could squeeze out 2 more reps, but next week I'm gonna have to do more. So it gives me that little bit of room, flexibility to be able to maybe do another rep next week. Then obviously if strength is increasing through the program, you might get 2, but at least you're allowing yourself that time for that to happen rather than rushing it. If I reach failure mechanically on this today and I come in next week and I get the same number or less, I'll be quite upset. So it's knowing when to like put it down, and then next week when I do these, if I can hit 1 more extra rep than that, that sees me get some nice progression. Exercise 2, 45-degree leg press. Should feel nice after that. My posterior chain doesn't like me now. It's like, oh.
Leave that.
Depending on what I train and when I train, sometimes I'll drink Enegan intra-workout, which is our cyclic dextrin amino acid combination with a few other things in there as well. At the minute, my food is so high, I'm having trouble with digestion. So I can't really drink anything during training at the minute. As my weight starts to come down a touch, let's say when I start preparations and my body weight comes down 10 pounds and digestion starts to ease off, I always have an intra-workout because I like to have some of my calories of the day taken out of having big meals and put into my training. Obviously as well, when I'm dieting, I'm quite a lot fitter and a lot faster. So hydration is really important because I'm working at a rate. So right now, I'll have to do that protesamine maybe at most while I'm training, but I do tend to have a serving of amino acids before I train with my second meal anyway. So it depends. You can use them intra, you can use them around. There was a point when I was even using the Enegan as a post-workout because I like it as a post-workout because it's fruity. Obviously you can use the Recumid as well. So it just depends. Like, again, I'm saying this in the video, you guys ever like aren't too sure about a supplement and when it can be taken? Not all of them are as simple as only take it at 1 time a day. I love the Enegan because it's so easy to drink, and I was using it around the training window for pre, intra, post. When I was finishing training, sometimes, you know when you don't want to eat straight away? You're like, oh, you know, I'm not in the mood to eat. That's when like Enegan or Recumid's are really good because it'll give you like an hour, 2 hour window where you don't actually have to eat because you've had what you need from the training session. So yeah, it's, normally I have that in this one, that's why I got the big jug. But today, big chicken, rice and olive oil meal before training. Digestion's not great because my weight's gone up quite a lot. I'm like 298 now. I was 284 like 10 days ago. But I think it's because now I'm back in England, I don't move much. Yeah. So when you're in America, you walk around a lot. Training wise, I've done loads of training. Had a really good training regime that I was doing with Patrick for a while, which was the like the SST. That was like kind of opposite to what I'm doing now, but both have their reasons, so it's really odd. Because like now my volume obviously is really low in comparison. I'm not doing any intensifiers or anything really at the minute, but there's something that you can introduce later, especially if you're trying to get more calorific expenditure without having to do loads of cardio.
So what, you know the Schrodinger cat?
Yeah.
So basically the Schrodinger cat is a kind of intellectual experiment for quantum mechanics. They said that I have a cat with a vial, a fragile vial of poison, and I put it into the box. So that I don't know if the cat is dead or alive until I open the box. Yeah. So for me, before I open the box, the cat is both dead and alive.
Yeah.
So why I'm saying that? Because in bodybuilding it's the same things. We don't have cats, but if I say a statement, let's say you have to train to failure, squatting is good for hypertrophy, or you got to use intensifier, that statement is both right or wrong, depending on the context.
Yeah, of course.
So if I open the box and give a context, so when, where, what did you do? Which is your background? What did you train the day before, the day after? What is your enjoyability? We talked about enjoyability. Until I don't give a context, everything is both right or wrong. So we don't have absolute statements in bodybuilding. Everything has to have a context. So in that context, James is making this kind of training works. The year back SST, a totally different workout, still works because the context.
I've done, and you know, you can look at it like this. I've won shows doing both. So your end result, that's why I said earlier, I think end result truly comes down mostly to the sustainability of an approach and the amount of effort you can apply. So again, we're doing a video of training today. This is just one way. And we're not saying now you have to train like this. But if situation of your lifestyle fits this training, absolutely. You know, it's situational.
So that was a perfect full ROM for a leg press.
Yeah, full range of motion, but not fast.
I'm hating all these people that now are pretending to do this kind of leg press, going so deep, like having the knee in the mouth.
Yeah.
So people are trying to get the most out of each single exercise. That is not how bodybuilding works. So you get the most of what is the purpose of the exercise.
Yes.
So it's meaning, if I prepare you a meal, I'm Italian, so I talk about meal.
These ingredients.
Yeah, I'm preparing the lasagna, let's say. You like lasagna?
I like a lasagna.
I put Nutella on lasagna. And I say, look, now it's also dessert. It's not dessert, it sucks. So if I try to go on this leg press so deep that I start to do this kind of real pelvic tilt, I'm engaging my lower back. If you want to go deep, go to do a fucking hack squat. That's the purpose of the exercise.
Absolutely.
The leg press is meaning to overload the middle range of the quad.
Absolutely.
If you want to go deep, go to do a hack squat. That's the perfect execution. That's a full ROM.
And this is why I had this thing last year. A few years ago when I trained in my old gym. I was like, you have to look at a workout routine as a whole. Again, this is what I said about, you were saying about food, and I was like saying ingredients on a plate.
Exactly.
You know, if you put chicken breast on a plate, it's boring. Put some veg with it, it's a bit better. Put some veg and some carbohydrates with it, it's perfect. So your workout needs to consist of exercises that allow you to train the entirety of that particular body group in every manner. So like you say, the leg press is that middle range. The hack squat or a back squat or a barbell squat, front squat is going to be the alternative. And then an extension is going to allow you to get into your fully shortened range under load. So if you do those 3 exercises for quads, you've basically covered the entirety of the workout, and that is your meal. It's about doing that, and I totally agree with that. You don't want to miss things. What I will say is, if you're training like I am, the minute where you're hitting everything twice a week, you might find the odd session doesn't have that entirety, but as a whole over the week, the 2 sessions do equate to that.
You got to think it's the microcycle.
Yes.
James.
It's one of them. You can make this exercise hard.
Yeah.
Tempo.
Exactly.
You know, I always try to make an exercise harder than it is so that I don't have to lift as heavy. Obviously, what happens then is you lift in a certain way that you will end up getting strong lifting like that, so it will be heavy again. Absolutely. So you do want to get strong, but with a certain format. And I always suggest trying to make the exercise feel as hard as it can. Get strong from there.
So the point is, when you do these compound movements, each muscle involved has a range of percentage of intervention. So let's say quads may comes into play from, let's say, 50 to 60%. What it's causing the range is your intention.
Yes.
So let's see the leg press as a leg extension, but with a pad like that. So focus on the knee extension, you get more quads.
Big lad.
You don't have to like do a quad press focusing just on the extension.
Yeah,
The purpose of doing a compound is doing a compound movement, so involves different muscles. But try to make in these rep ranges, try to make the exercise harder for the muscle you want to train more.
Yeah, like you should consciously be able to say to yourself, when I'm pressing that away from me, I'm almost trying to extend. I'm not just thinking about pressing, I'm trying to extend.
Exactly.
I'm trying to flex the quad. I'm trying to close the quad.
Push the feet on that direction. So the big toe on that direction.
And as you come down,
makes all the difference.
your knees drive up. So you do what an extension does on the way down. Obviously it takes a little bit of time and understanding to know how to do that without you actually doing that. But it's the intention that makes it work so well. So that felt great.
100%.
Can I go heavier? Of course. But for what I'm trying to do, with that form, that felt great for 15 reps.
You did it. We all know you can do it. You don't need to do any more.
So down, knee goes up.
Yeah.
That's that press. There, boom.
Going. Yeah.
Even when you're here, try and drive your feet up, and this will still be taking a lot of the weight.
Come on, James. Don't run away from it.
Oh yeah. Oh. Oh. The only way I can like kind of describe it is like if you flex your tricep, yeah. Put your hand there and like try and flex your tricep. You're doing that. You're trying to keep that tension on, even when you're close to lockout.
Yeah.
That's how you get tears and shit.
Yeah.
That's how you get that damage.
Yeah.
Because it's that erratic.
Exactly. Exactly. It's just creating a stimulus. I mean, don't get me wrong. You got to have some effort.
Oh yeah.
You got to go beyond your limits.
But you know here, you know you can make effort and it not look explosive.
Yeah, that's the thing. Look how James approached the set. He's calm. It's not like focusing, walking around there like that,
oh, yeah,
like a beast, and then rah.
For me, that's misdirection of energy. It's energy that should be contained and unleashed on the set.
That is something I've learned over the years because I was doing like this kind of stuff to prepare myself. Then I start to try to listen to other kind of music, calm music, and try to don't let the adrenaline work for me.
No.
I need to be calm.
You are the one controlling.
Exactly. So I need to. It's just like a bath,
It's
a warm
like,
bath, going there in my zone.
It's like you're allowed to be angry, but don't let it out.
Yeah.
Like
that's the point.
that's just the way, you know.
That's the point.
Woo! Fat off-season legs. Not a line in sight. Seated ham curl. Hack squat. Bulgarian split squat. Adductor.
That's fair. That's fair.
When you add that as one, it's quite a nice amount of work.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
Your purpose is, people focus too much on training frequency. I train the muscle as much as possible. I always say, that's fine. if you're training as much as possible in terms of frequency, you create
That's
more stimulus
that's
points.
that's when you need to volumize down.
That's it. So people think, oh, I'm training biceps 2 days per week.
Full workout. Full workout.
Exactly.
So yeah, you
But-
say like today we were just saying it's only 5 sets on legs. So that's like half of a normal amount of working sets.
Yeah.
But then there's another leg session later in the week that'll be about 5 sets as well. So you equate to about 10 sets per working week.
Again, the recovery is the limiting factor.
Because also as well, you have to do that. The stronger you get, the less you can do.
Yeah.
You know that.
Absolutely.
You know that.
The stronger you are, more stimulus you are creating. So
So that's when you do need to think about possibly maybe dissecting your workouts into like 2
that's right.
seconds.
So let's say this is James' training style at the moment that is focusing on progressive overload in terms of load. He can't still progressing that much using training to failure all the time because he's fucking
Spent.
strong.
he gets
He can't. He's going to burn out his CNS. So he got to find a way. What he's going to find after all this mesocycle is both hypertrophy
Yeah.
but skill.
Yeah.
Is people don't always think about the skill they earn from a mesocycle. So he's going to learn a skill. He's going to be more strong. So when he comes back to different training style, he's
Carry
going to
over.
create more hypertrophy
Yeah.
because he's doing what he was doing, but with heavy
that,
loads.
With that load. Well, right now, the whole point of this type of training, yeah, is to get strong, really, which is, you know, going to
It's
pay
the only
off.
way for you now.
Yeah. It's a shit leg extension.
Come on. Come on. Come on. Come on.
Oh, 1 set. Just one. So that's the leg portion done.
Yep.
It's the leg portion done. Literally.
So this is the leg workout. Now you have
I have it's like, because of the focal points on my body this year are shoulders and biceps, there will now be some 1 shoulder exercise, 1 bicep exercise. And that happens multiple times a week to just increase that frequency but diminish the load. So everything's trained twice a week except shoulders and biceps are trained 4 times a week but with a low volume. So we'll see how it pans out.
yeah. So guys, that's it for the video. We hope you like it. I lost the voice because I'm singing because of the music.
We've got to talk over the music.
Yeah, that's right, that's right. So every comment, every question, whatever, just ask below in the comment section and we will answer.
Absolutely.
And if you want some more content, some stuff, just ask again.
Absolutely.
And hope you like and add some good tips out of this workout.
That's it, dude. Sub to the channel.
See you guys.
That's always a good one. And yeah, check out ourselves and the rest of the team at Yamamoto Nutrition. And let us know your favourite products. Let us know your favourite athletes. Let's get involved. Appreciate you guys.